Your need to invest is most critical when you are short on money, when you're operating on a tight budget. The effort to save and invest during those difficult times is what you need to propel you to a position where you have financial stability and freedom. There are two categories of birds. You have migratory birds and caching birds. The migratory birds usually live in a particular place where they can find abundant food, where they go out and search for food every day. However, when the weather changes and it, let's say, becomes cold so that they cannot find food, they usually migrate to another place where there is abundant food and continue their daily food search there. For the caching birds, what they tend to do is every day, as they are collecting food, they save part of it. They put them in caches. And when the weather changes and it becomes cold and they cannot find food, they survive on those caches or those stores of food. Rather than migrating to another place, they continue living where they are. From a financial perspective, you need to be like a caching bird, where as you are looking for your daily food, you save part of what you are earning every day or every month, so that in future you are able to depend on that invested amount when your abilities to look for food every day runs out. And in fact, you cannot be a migratory bird from a financial perspective for the rest of your life. There is going to come a time when you are not going to be able to go out and look for money or look for food every day. You will need to stay at home. And when that day comes, you want to have put aside a significant amount of money that you can live on. To be able to experience this kind of transformation, you need to make changes in your life. You need to change the way you think, you need to change the way you feel, and you need to change the way you behave. The first thing that you need to change, therefore, is the way you think. And for you to be successful in investing, you need to change how you perceive investments. One of the best definitions of an investment that I've ever come across was in a book called A Random Walk Down Wall Street. And in that book, the author said that an investment is when you put money in a real or financial asset that has reasonably predictable returns, and you hold that asset for a long term in order to make profit. Let us break down this definition in order to understand what we need to think differently about investing. The first thing that you need to change when thinking about investments is that you need to start thinking of investing as a long-term activity. You need to develop that long-term mindset. Years ago, when I was working in a bank, a customer came in and he was accompanied by his son who had just completed college. His son was about 24 years old. And the man had a bank account, and he had opened that savings bank account when his son was born. And over the years, every month he put in a certain amount of money. On that day, he withdrew a sizable amount of money and gave it to his son. His son said that he was going to use that money to invest in one of his friends' businesses. That man had developed a long-term investment perspective where even though a savings account does not pay high interest, he was able to consistently put money into that account. And over 24 years, it became a sizable amount that his son could use to start life as a business owner rather than dependent on a job. And that is the kind of mindset that you also need to develop in order to become a successful investor. Consistent actions over time. They don't need to be huge actions. You do not need to save huge amounts. You do not need to earn ridiculously high returns. If you are consistent over a long period of time, you will find that in future, you are going to be much better off than if you did nothing. The other thing that you need to change your thinking about investing is that what you're looking for are reasonable returns. Let's say a person goes out there and comes across a neighborhood that is growing quite fast. There are people buying land there and they are building their homes. There is no hardware store there. So this person decides to set up a hardware store. And because it is the only one that people can access, the person is able to charge high amounts and is able to earn huge profits. What do you imagine would happen in that situation? The natural thing is that other hardwares are going to open up around that area to take advantage of the same profits, because people are going to be seeing this person is successful and they want a piece of that action. Over time, the amount of profits that they are all going to be making is going to reduce and become a reasonable amount. Typically, when this happens in other businesses, what happens is that the amount of returns usually reduce to the point where some of the companies are going to go out of business. When you are being offered ridiculously high amounts of returns, those are typically businesses that have not been tested. And the truth is that often when you invest in such a business, there's going to be a shakeout period where there's going to be high competition and businesses are going to fail, and there's a possibility that your investment is going to be in one of the companies that are going to fail during that period. So when you look for reasonable returns, you are likely to find companies that have established themselves, that have proven themselves, and that are going to give you returns for the long term, and your investment is going to be safe in those companies. So those are the two changes in your mindset that you need. First of all, you need to develop a long-term view of investing. And then when you're looking for investments, look for those that are going to offer you reasonable returns. You then need to make changes to how you feel. You need to make changes to your emotions. Your emotions have the potential to stand in your way of becoming an outstanding investor. A great investor once said that success in investing does not depend on your IQ. Once you have average intelligence, you are going to be successful if you have the temperament to control the urges that tend to get people in trouble. When investing, you're likely to be sabotaged by your emotions. And there are two aspects of your emotions that you need to take into consideration. The first aspect of your emotions is that you need to develop self-control. The mark of being an adult is being able not to touch the chocolate cake. When you're a kid, probably if your parents brought chocolate cake into your house or something else that you found to be delicious, you'll find that it was quite difficult for you to exercise self-control. If you are given access to it, you are likely to consume that entire cake in no time. As you grew up, as you became an adult, you developed certain self-control abilities. However, when it comes to money, we sometimes do not develop those self-control abilities. And when you think about it, let's say the Friday after payday, you find that people are out spending the money that they have earned, and they continue to spend it at a high rate over that first and second week. And by the time mid-month is coming, most people are generally broke. Then they continue in their brokenness until the next payday and begin that cycle again. For you to be successful in investing, you need to break out of that cycle. You need to exercise self-control where you can regulate how you spend your money. You can actually have money in your bank account and not spend it. The reason this is important is because over your lifetime, you might receive money that is unexpected, and that might be huge amounts. For example, you might one day receive $5,000. That might be a huge amount for someone, or it might not be so huge. However, you might receive huge amounts of money, and you need to have the self-control to, rather than spend it, rather than waste all that money, to put it aside and help you towards your investment goals. The next thing about your emotions is that you need to become comfortable with uncertainty. One of the things that usually attracts investors is when they see, let's say, a brochure that says that invest in this thing and you're going to be making 300,000 shillings every month. The prospect of sure returns every month can be quite appealing to most people. However, the truth is there is no investment that does not have risk, that does not have variations. And scammers know that people are out there looking for the sure thing, and they're likely to take your money by offering you something that seems to be sure. As an investor, you need to become comfortable with the fact that there are going to be variations in the investments that you take up. And the way that you can do this, the way that you can become comfortable, is to always think in terms of lows and highs rather than specific returns. So rather than asking for a specific number or for the returns that you're going to get out of an investment, ask for what is the lowest that you're going to earn and what is the highest that you are likely to earn. And that exercise over time is going to get you comfortable with the fact that investments have variations, and you shouldn't be out there looking for a sure thing. So those are the two things that you need to do to change about your emotions. First of all, you need to develop self-control. And second, you need to become comfortable with uncertainty, because there is no investment that does not have uncertainty. The changes that you make in your thinking and in your feelings are going to show themselves in changes in your habits. Imagine someone comes up to you and calls you a horse. The first time that they do this, you're likely to get angry and snap at them. The next time that they call you a horse, you'll get angry and punch them in the face. However, the third time someone calls you a horse, then it is time to go out and buy a saddle, because you are a horse. As you go along your investment journey, you need to develop habits that are going to set you apart as an outstanding investor. When people look at you, they can see you practicing that investor mindset. And there are quite a number of habits that you can develop, but I'm going to just focus on two right now. The first habit that you need to develop is the ability to prioritize and then focus on the most important investment objectives that you have. A while back, I was driving on a highway at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I reached a place that had some busy traffic with people crossing. They were not meant to cross, but they tend to cross. So I started to slow down. On that morning, I saw a kid. He started crossing the road. And when he was, let's say, a third of the way before he got to the other side, he dropped his phone. And in his mind, he could not decide whether to pick up his phone or to continue on and wait for the cars to pass. So what happened is that his upper body decided to reach back for the phone, while his lower body seemed to continue running to the edge of the road. And the result was that he ended up laying flat on the tarmac with the bumper of my car just inches away from his face. When you're investing, you need to focus on one or two things at a time. When you try to focus on so many things at the same time, you tend not to make progress on any of them. You tend to do a mediocre job in achieving those objectives. And you do not have infinite resources. You have limited resources. And the best way that you can use those resources is to identify the most important goals in your life and then concentrate those resources on those goals. Once you've made some progress on that particular goal, then you can move on to other goals in your life. The next habit that is going to mark you as an outstanding investor, and that does not seem obvious, is you need to become an avid record keeper. Some of the earliest records of bonds that have been found are from 1796 BC. And they are from a city called Ur. If that city sounds familiar, it's because that is where Abraham came from, Abraham in the Bible. And in that city, there was a man called Dumuzi, and he borrowed silver from a man called Shumi. And he borrowed that silver at 3.8%. However, Shumi, the person who had lent out that silver, turned around and sold that contract for the loan to another trader. And that is an example of what a bond is. The reason that those records have survived is because investors over the ages have always been very meticulous when it comes to keeping records. You cannot know how well you're doing unless you keep records of the kind of investments that you're buying, the reasons behind you buying them, their performance over time, and how much you make from them. And for you to become an outstanding investor, you need to develop a record-keeping system. You need to have spreadsheets, or you need to have actual files that you can look at, actual physical files. Whatever means that you use, you cannot become successful over a long period of time unless you develop the habit of keeping accurate records. So those are the two habits that you need to develop as an investor. You need to be very careful when prioritizing your goals and deciding which one to go after. And secondly, you also need to make sure that you always keep records. So those are the things that you need to do to move from being a migratory bird to a caching bird, to move from being a consumer to becoming an investor. First of all, you need to change the way you think about investing. It is meant to be a long-term venture, and you are looking for reasonable returns. You need to change the way you feel. You need to develop self-control. You need to become comfortable with uncertainty. And thirdly, you need to change your habits. You need to learn how to prioritize, and you also need to keep meticulous records. There is a meme that features Dave Chappelle, the comedian, and on that meme he is saying, modern problems require modern solutions. Investment problems require an investor's attitude, and an attitude that is made up with a specific way of thinking, specific way of feeling, and specific habits. If you're struggling with getting started with saving and investing, or if you'd like to support this channel, I have written a book that is available on Amazon. The book is called Investing on a Tight Budget. You can buy it for $2.99 on Amazon. The link is in the description.